I don't know. Have you ever had an opportunity to catch a game in Amelie or anything like that yet?
So I haven't been to Amelie,
Okay.
but my weird tie to Florida hockey is growing up in Greenville, South Carolina, we only had an ECHL team.
Okay.
And the first hockey game I ever went to was a Greenville Growl Florida Everblades game.
Oh,
So
wow.
Florida Everblades are a team that kind of are in the patchwork of my hockey fandom. And probably a big reason why I've played hockey for 20 plus years. And
Sure.
I don't think if I'd ever not seen that game or gone to that game in particular, like if it would have stuck with me the same way. Like this was the old way ECHL where it was like kind of a scary place to play.
Oh yeah.
Had to have like some screws loose kind of thing. Like there was probably 5 or 6 fights at the time, and like just being a little kid, that was like a big like draw to the sport, you know, because it's like holy shit, like didn't know it was this. But since then, like have played in Germain Arena. I think it's the Hertz Arena now where the Everblades play. Like I've played on that ice, been to games there. One of the tournaments I mentioned earlier, like we would play down there. They would have like a college invite, like a 4-team round robin tournament.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, like we would play in a tournament down there, and then on like our off days, the college teams would be playing and vice versa kind of thing. So like there was one year where it was like St. Cloud, Princeton, Harvard, and somebody like another like random college, Cornell, I believe.
Okay.
So it was cool. Like that was like random player. I just remember being there, like Taylor Fadoon, like kind of a short-term NHL guy, but like that was a guy that just stuck out of like, oh, that guy was in that tournament, and like who knows who else was playing on any of those 4 teams while we were there. But that's kind of my ties to Florida hockey, and the Florida Everblades have been a very consistent ECHL team that are always in the higher rung of the ECHL. They've won a few Kelly Cups. One of the best ECHL players I've ever seen, as far as like a true like ECHLer that never really like worked out anywhere else, but like kind of had that league in his pocket. Matthew Waugh, that guy was putting up 3 or 4 points a night in the ECHL and just go radio silent. Went and played in Europe, did okay. But like the ECHL, he just had it figured out.
Wow.
So, you know.
I want to talk a little bit about the ECHL because, you know, Tom and I are from New York, where unless you're like really like, I don't want to say this, but like balls deep in hockey, like
yeah,
you don't really even know what the ECHL is. Like obviously Tom and I do because we're just hockey fanatics, but it really is, and at least it was, like the only way you could watch live hockey in the South.
Right.
For a while.
And there were so many teams.
That's what I mean. Like, you know, they really are the ambassadors for the game in the South. You know, now, especially with the Atlanta Thrashers gone, like you got a few states that don't have hockey, like professional hockey teams. And like, you know, South Carolina, Georgia don't have teams. And then, you know, Alabama, like those areas do not have professional hockey teams. So, like you said, there was a ton of ECHL teams in the South.
Right. So at a time, like Pat Kelly, the founder of the league, amazing guy, amazing stories. He stepped down as like the commissioner role now, but he's kind of like the commissioner in memoriam or whatever it is, where it's just like, while he's not in the position, it's still very much his position kind of thing. But great guy, great stories. Still comes to a lot of Greenville games because he lives in Charlotte. So I've gotten to meet him and talk to him a good bit. Like very funny, very witty old guy. Like he had a vision for what that league could be, and I think he like capitalized fully on it. But when I first started going to hockey games, I guess it was in 1999, like the ECHL, like there were teams in Greenville, South Carolina, Columbia, South Carolina, Florence, South Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina. There were 4 teams in South Carolina alone. They had like a Palmetto Cup, like a tournament within the state.
Love that.
Of basically like the points leader would win this like non-actual like league award, but there were enough teams to do it. And then like Little Rock, Arkansas had 2 teams at one point. Louisiana had 2 or 3 teams. Mississippi had 2 teams. So it was just crazy. Like at one point there was like more teams in the ECHL than there were in the NHL. And because of I don't know why my brain works this way, and it's all useful or useless information, really. But minor league sports is kind of like my strange savant element. Like I know all the defunct teams, who they fed into, minor league hockey, minor league baseball, like those 2 teams. Like it's how I learned geography as a little kid. And like you were alluding to, I lived in Greenville, South Carolina. It was 2 hours to Charlotte and almost 3 hours to Atlanta. So, and I grew up in a family that like we didn't have money to buy Braves tickets every time we wanted to go to a baseball game. We couldn't drive to Charlotte to go to Hornets games. Atlanta was just becoming a team, so it wasn't like a thing we knew about. So like my intro into professional sports was all minor league, and like would learn cities based on whatever team was in a city. So there's just weird ties to it I have all over the place. But
so I think then probably the cool thing seeing is you have some savantism with this, and I can talk to you about it because I have a free subscription to Wikipedia here. Let's talk about probably the only team that's ever been in professional sports to actually not only be called the Growl, but have 3 R's so that you actually have to say their name, the Greenville Growl.
Yep.
And but those are like the hometown team. I think
those are the guys right there. Like they were a Thrashers and Bruins affiliate. They had a split affiliation, so they had a few guys that were on contract with both. Because that was a time where you saw a lot more ECHL guys make it into the NHL. Growl, probably most notably, Alex Burrows. He played in Greenville for a season or 2, and then like went on to have a very long NHL career.
That's it's so awesome, and also like this logo is like the most like late 90s, early 2000s logo. It's fantastic. Oh, and there are 3 R's in Greenville in the logo too. Fantastic. Yep. I love that. That's incredible. But yeah, so, but to Mikey's point, yeah, there's, there's something to be said about that. Like, so I haven't had the pleasure to go to a Solar Bears game yet in Orlando. And that's something that I'm definitely missing out on, and I've got to change soon. But there's a presence in Orlando, like around the Solar Bears. Like, I mean, they got a couple of thousand people at each game, and, but like everybody that's been to a Solar Bears game only has good things to say about it, and granted, we're, this is the AHL, not the ECHL, but I mean, like Mikey and I have been to Bridgeport Sound Tigers, not the Bridgeport Islanders, but we've been to Sound Tigers games probably 4 or 5 times. And while Bridgeport, Connecticut is a real wild place, I mean, that arena is a beautiful arena. The sight lines are great. It's always a blast. Tickets are inexpensive. Like I feel like there are some markets in the NHL where like you can be lucky enough to go to games and, have a great place to sit and not spend a ton of money. But like there are other places, like Madison Square Garden, for instance, where it's like, you're not getting in that arena without spending a couple of $100, and that's not including your food or your drink or whatever. So, I think it's a wonderful thing for people that are trying to dip their toes into the sport, that they have the ECHL and the AHL so that they can go see a game for, $20-$30 or whatever. And not only that, but then like you use that kind of as like I went to this ECHL game, I saw this guy play. Now, 4 years later, when I'm really into hockey, all of a sudden that guy skates onto the ice for his first game on the Red Wings or on the Canadians, and you're like, holy crap, I saw that guy play. He scored 2 goals, and it's me and 800 people. And I think the cool parallel to that in my mind, it kind of ties into music, right? Because like everyone that loves alternative music, for the most part, like you love to see your favorite musicians grow, right? So like, you love to say things like, oh yeah, I remember, I saw Fall Out Boy, play, for 50 people, and now all of a sudden they're, playing in, I don't know, Yankee
Arenas.
Stadium or arenas or whatever they're, right? So I love that.
Sports is like at the root of it very punk.
Yeah.
Because like a lot of these dudes like are making next to no money. They're doing it because they love to do it.
Yeah.
And like a lot of them aren't thinking beyond this one game or this one season. Like they're not really fully fleshing out their future or setting themselves up for like a cushy retirement or anything like that. But at the, in the moment, it's not important, And I think all of us, like with whatever band we were hoping that was going to blow up or whatever shows, like we all can like sympathize and like get on board with that because somebody like signing a $300 million contract in baseball or basketball or football or whatever, like you can't really be like, that's my guy. That's me. I can do that. But like the guy that works his ass off and like gets a chance to sign is like, okay, you're on a 3-game PTO contract with this AA minor league hockey league team.
Yep.
Like anybody could be like, I could have maybe done that. Oh, this guy's getting paid $100 a game or whatever. Like that could be you. Like, or that could be somebody that like had committed. Like that doesn't seem as unobtainable.
Yeah, and I mean that parallel also. Not that I'm really allowed to talk about this, but I do give myself 45 seconds every episode to talk about professional wrestling. But it's the same deal there. I mean, it's like don't even shake your head.
I mean, one of my best friends growing up, a guy I grew up with, is becoming a very successful professional wrestler. And little hidden gem here, I actually trained and wrestled a few matches as a professional wrestler myself. So,
are you able to name this particular person that's becoming a
Effie Fest Wrestling?
Effie, love Effie, man. Effie,
Greenville, South Carolina guy, went to college.
Sure is. Yep.
Actually wrestled Effie in his early years of being Effie. Still Ephraim. So.
But yeah, he actually, I was just kind of following. He got into a pretty high profile thing over there at GCW with the former Zack Ryder and Matt Cardona, which was really cool to see. But the parallels there are very much the same, right? You see a guy who the old adage, wrestled armories and bingo halls, and you follow his career, and all of a sudden he pops up on your TV. I'm still waiting for the day that my guy Juba just pops up on my TV, because I know it's happening at some point soon. But we can only hope. But yeah, so refereeing gig, kind of interested to so and forgive my ignorance, but I know that like most referees are people that have played and kind of either transition to that but I'm just kind of interested in hearing like how that happened for you and how it kind of came to be that you got that opportunity.
Right. So I am an off-ice official in the ECHL, and just to put a face with the name of that, the guys you're seeing opening the penalty box that are wearing the suit with the NHL patch on it and the headset on. That is my position, but I'm one of the guys that's up in the press box.
Okay.
My particular position within our crew is I'm basically the laptop guy.
Okay.
So I'm updating the live scoreboard for Greenville Swamp Rabbits games.
Okay.
Putting in stats. Basically, there's a team of guys behind me, a couple guys tracking plus minus, a couple guys watching the assists. The ECHL keeps an abbreviated amount of stats compared to the NHL. We're not tracking face-offs or an individual player's time on ice and hits and stuff like that. We're just kind of the meat and potatoes of it.
Okay.
Assists, goals, plus minus, goalies, save percentage, stuff like that.
Okay.
So basically, these guys are watching the game and just shouting over my shoulder, shot from 16, shot from this person, goal number 14, assisted by 22 and 8. Like, and I'm just sitting there constantly putting that stuff in.
Okay.
Tripping penalty, number 14. Never mind. Coincidental. So it's just kind of a fast-paced thing. But way I got into that, I've played hockey my entire life.
Yep.
I played junior hockey. I played Division III club hockey, and most recently had signed to play Division III hockey at a school in Virginia that the pandemic kind of shattered that opportunity. But that's a whole nother story. But our crew chief in Greenville, Dave Chambers, was a guy that just is a beer league ref, USA Hockey certified referee that hung around the rink I worked at a lot. He's been the crew chief in Greenville since Greenville hockey was a thing. And he just needed people a few years ago and knew that I knew the game beyond the playing aspect of it, just because just like anything, much like the lack of musicianship, I made up for it with I was never the fastest guy or the strongest guy, but I pride myself on my hockey IQ and playmaking ability.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what got me any sort of roster spot growing up. Was
Sure.
I know how to use my brain and make it work to my advantage on the ice, despite not being the highest skill set guy.
Okay.
But Dave needed some guys that knew the game well enough to work the back end of it.
Awesome.
And came on in that first season. I worked probably 32 of the 36 home games, and then the last couple of years has been a little less because of the touring schedule, but I still managed to get about a dozen to 20 games in a season. And most recently, actually, this past Wednesday, worked Swamp Rabbit Solar Bears game, and it was probably one of the sloppiest, most boring games I've watched in a while, but that's ECHL hockey sometimes.
So I mean, I have to imagine, like anytime you close your eyes, whether it's to go to sleep or just to like catch a breath, you probably just see Excel spreadsheets. Like that's probably all you see.
Right.
Like,
I can run a mean Excel sheet, so that is a plus. But a lot of times on a formal resume, I can put that on there. But when these corporate hires don't understand or know who Movements is or 4 Year Strong Touring LLC,
yeah,
they have no use, you know.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, if Microsoft Excel specifically wants to start sponsoring people, you should probably be the first person you.
Right, I'll take the yearly subscription.
Yeah, for sure. So I just kind of want to talk a little bit about, like your relationship with the NHL, right? Because, again, being in South Carolina, you were relatively far, from the opportunity to, probably see, the NHL growing up.
Yeah.
Do you remember, like the first game you went to and, how far you had to travel for that and what that experience was like for you?
The first NHL game I ever went to was a Thrashers game, and they were playing the Florida Panthers.
All right.
We had gotten tickets because the junior Thrashers were a team that were in the division that I played in growing up. Played AA hockey in South Carolina. We were part of what was originally the MAHL, the Mid-Atlantic Hockey League, and then that turned into the Carolina Hockey League. Youth hockey, you know how they change monikers every few years. But by way of playing the junior Thrashers, they had some sort of deal that like once a year, each of their opponents, like their board of trustees or whatever, some kids' parents running the thing, give tickets, like a block of tickets to the opposing team. So like we would play on a Saturday afternoon at like 3 p.m., be done at 5-ish, and we went to that game. I don't remember a whole lot of details about it other than Ed Belfour playing for the Panthers at the time. So that was like a weird, just one of those things that doesn't look right because like he's not supposed to play for that team kind of thing. He's not in a Stars jersey, or he's not in a Blackhawks jersey, so it doesn't look right. But that was the first one I went to.
So my final question is, can we expect Jennings Compton to hit the road doing some stand up again?
I'm hoping so. The pandemic definitely threw the brakes on not my pursuit of comedy, but just being able to perform comedy the way I wanted to. I'm not somebody that I feel like I can make myself funny on like a Zoom show or something like that. I'm not funny on Instagram. I don't have Twitter. I'm just bad at social media in general. Some people can do that. That's great. I just don't have that ability. I like doing a live show. And then now that touring's back together or rolling again, like I need to start taking care of myself from the financial standpoint, being somewhat responsible and getting a few tours under my belt. Touring was a way that I could get, or stand-up touring was a way I could get back to like the DIY roots. Because like no matter what, like while yes, touring is my livelihood, it's how I pay my bills. That's how I feed my dog and take care of my family. DIY touring is still the most fun I've ever had touring. When it was just me and my friends and like a shitty church van that the fuel gauge didn't work, so we would run out of gas every day. Playing house shows, that sort of thing. I have more memories and laughs of that than I do working. Just because that was when we were making no money and spending our own money to do it. So we truly wanted to do it. There was no work aspect to it. It was just us going and doing it. And stand up is something I wanted to do. I'm still a very creative person, even though I've worked behind the scenes on a lot of tours now. And that was something I felt like I could do. I've always been a stand up fan, comedy fan in general. And it's just a personality trait that I felt like I could make work for myself. But going back to the DIY touring, comedy was a way I could do that. So right now, just the way my schedule is and everything, it's a thing I can plan in my free time, but it just doesn't make sense currently to step away from work after not working for almost 2 years.
Of course.
To pay to go out to use my own car, gas, get paid $7 from the show because there were 7 people there, like that kind of thing. I will do it again. Obviously, it's not all about money, but I just got to capitalize while work is back going. But by the end of the year, I'll definitely have 1 or 2 runs rolling.
Now, I just want to comment on that because, I caught your set that you did with, Keep Flying on that run.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was the coolest, most interesting show that I've ever attended just because, like, I've been to probably 500 shows in my lifetime and it's kind of like the same. And like sometimes I forget, what makes that show stand out compared to another one. But that's one that I remember because it was so different than what I'm used to. And I would love to see more of that. And, it'd be cool if, bands started to do things like that, especially that 15, 20 minutes between sets, like when the band's setting up instead of like the house DJ playing just like an emo night song.
Yeah,
if they had
everybody just heard the Taking Back Sunday song.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
We've
like,
heard.
So, on this like last bigger tour that you did you like pitch it to them? Like, yo, like, do you guys mind in between a set if I jump up there and tell some jokes?
So I have done that in the past. Fourier has given me some time before their set. Seaway was another band, like one of the first bands that was just like, sure, while we're setting up, go for it. The issue with that becomes it's hard to get a crowd that is so used to, in between bands, this is when I can go take a piss, go grab a drink, actually hear my friends talk,
Yep.
and that kind of thing. It's hard to go up there between sets and just be like, everybody shut up. You don't know who I am, but shut up. I'm going to talk at you for 5 to 10 minutes now. Now please laugh. It works when you're in a setting of my name is on the flyer, or there's somebody that can say, hey, there's going to be a comedian come up here and do a little time if you guys don't mind giving him courtesy and just giving it a listen kind of thing.
Yep.
So while I've done that, it's just not the best arena for comedy just because of the circumstances of trying to like buck the norm.
Yeah.
So it's not something I'm opposed to, but it has worked better when I am there as advertised. Because some people would just be like, what the hell is this? So why is this guy now talking at me? And go pay $9 for this beer at this bar.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I it is the kind of thing that like in the future, as I start booking my stuff, I do like, just for anybody listening, most of my stand-up shows, I'm going to be opening for a band or doing something with a band just because that is the niche that I'm in. Like I already have these contacts made. I don't particularly like the comedy club scene. It's got its own set of politics that are just very outdated and shitty. Music's what I like, and a lot of my stories and references, those people are going to get it. And that might be a lazy way of doing it according to some comics that are so up their own ass that they still think they're going to make it onto SNL or something like that when they can't even get past a 3-minute set in an open mic. But it's not a competition for me, and that's what so much of comedy and comedy clubs is about. Everybody is very snaky, and so like opening for music works best for me, and like I'm just leaning into that. So long-winded way of answering your question. If I do tour in the future, which I will tour in the future, doing something like Fest, where it's like a music festival that has a comedy stage, that's awesome.
Absolutely.
Fest is one of the 3 or 4 things that is on my short bucket list of like things in comedy that I want to achieve before I hang it up or whatever. Like I don't have plans to hang it up, but that's just something that's on the list of what I want to do with my comedy.